morning, my lovely sports fans. I hope you've been wheeling and dealing, styling and profiling, swishing and dishing, because this is the second episode of Boundin and Astoundin. And as you know, we always say active on the glass around here. Let's get into it. First and foremost, I just want to shout you guys out. I appreciate all the love and support you guys showed on the last video. Keep it up, keep liking, keep subscribing. I want to make this the best it can possibly be for you guys, so any feedback is much appreciated. I appreciate the love you showed, so let's keep it up. Let's keep going. Anyways, on to the sports. Start with box score watchers. We had a crazy slate of football games this weekend. I'm very happy with how it went. I know my brother, the Bills fan, is devastated right now, but shout out Jake Fetch. It will be all right. You guys will be back. You will recover. Anyways, the first person I want to shout out today is George Kittle, who, if you remember, in my last video, I said that the main thing the Packers needed to do to help win this game was they needed to shut down the middle of the field. They did not do that. George Kittle had 4 receptions for 81 yards and a touchdown. He averaged 20.1 yards a reception. He ate them for breakfast. And Brock Purdy went, I think, 9 for 11 on his passes in the middle of the field. And the Packers did everything else they needed to do. They were in that game the whole time. The one thing they didn't do was win the turnover battle and keep the middle of the field on lock. If they had done those two things, they'd probably be sitting in the NFC Championship right now, and we're looking at a division rival championship game between them and the Lions. But Jordan Love, 2 untimely turnovers. That last one was reminiscent of the Brett Favre throw when he was on the Vikings. It was ugly. I still got hope for Jordan Love. I don't think this is any indictment on him as a quarterback. There was, for a second there, with like a minute 5 left, whenever they got the ball back, I was like, are we about to see 3 straight Packers quarterbacks you can trust to go down the field and give you a game-winning drive in the playoff? No, not yet at least. We'll see, though. I don't think the jury's completely out on Jordan Love yet. We'll see. But like I said, they did everything else right. They pounded the ball. Aaron Jones had a great game like I thought he would, 108 yards. They led in time of possession. It was only by a minute, but they still led. If they had continued to pound and kept them off the field with those turnovers cut out, they definitely would have completely led in time of possession, and it would have been a completely different ballgame. So, shout out to the Packers. It's a good year. I'm interested to see where they go in this offseason. I don't think you need to go after a wide receiver 1. I don't think you need a T. Higgins or anything like that. I think you can sit on this receiving core and develop. I mean, you got Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Dontavion Wicks, and Jaden Reed just all sitting there, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I didn't even mention Luke Musgrave, who I think is going to be a beast in a few years. They're pretty set up. I'm interested to see what they do in the draft. Their line could use some tweaking. I think that would be a big help for Jordan. I could definitely see them going. I mean, this is a very deep tackle class, very deep line class in general. I could see them dipping there. A corner is probably a big need too. It's going to be interesting to see where they go. But I like this Packers team. They put up one heck of a fight against just an absolutely dominant Niners team. Outside of, I mean, the Brock Purdy discourse has been very interesting around this game because I feel like as soon as that game-winning drive happened, everyone just kind of forgot the fact that he did his thing where he throws 3 passes that absolutely should have been picked off, but the defense just can't hang on to him. And this isn't me hating on Brock Purdy whatsoever. I just think there are certain flaws to his game that get looked past because he is such a good game manager and just does all the right things for the most part. And again, I mean, they're dropped interceptions. They're not actual interceptions, so you can't really fault him in that way. But if they were caught, it's an entirely different story. And he does need to make better reads in those situations, and I think he will. Again, this isn't like it's a constant thing, but it's interesting because a lot of people were saying that on the back of Brock Purdy, they won this game. In the fourth quarter, maybe he finally turned it around and started playing real football, but outside of that, that was one of the worst Brock Purdy games I think I've ever seen. I mean, if he plays like that in the championship game, the Lions are a little bit less forgiving than the Packers are, and one wrong turn could lead to a big disaster for them. That's going to be a phenomenal matchup, though. We'll get more into that on Friday, but I'm very, very, very excited for that game. My next shout out actually goes to a Lions player, rookie Jahmyr Gibbs, who he is what he looks like. He is the truth. He had 9 rushes for 74 yards and a rushing touchdown, and one where he absolutely tossed off his defender. I mean, good lord, he put Carlton Davis into the, I believe it was Carlton Davis, I'm pretty sure, into the dirt as he was walking into the end zone. I mean, oh no, it was Antoine Winfield. That's right. He put Antoine Winfield into the dirt, and it was an impressive showing. He also had 4 receptions for 40 yards, 110 total yards on the day. I mean, he is the truth. I'm very excited to see what he does next year when he is most likely the lead back, I'm assuming. I'm sure Montgomery will still be getting plenty of touches, but I mean, next year they should be all in on getting him at least 200 carries next season, at least. I think he can very easily be top 5 in the league in touchdowns. He is like that. I was very impressed with his performance. He's just got such good burst. Like once he hits that second gear, you're not touching him. You're just not. He is quick. And I loved watching him this weekend. He put on an absolute show, and he's going to be a very, very important factor against an absolutely monster 49ers front 7 on Sunday. My next shout out goes to my boy, baby goat, Alperen Sengun, who dropped a career high 37 points, 14 rebounds, 8 of those offensive, 6 assists, a steal, and a block. He went 15 for 26, and he only shot 1 3 and made it. He was absolutely dominant the whole way through. I mean, I've been vouching for him to be an all-star this whole voting cycle. He's putting on the best season of his career by far. And he's only 23 right now, which means he's only getting better. He's really got that Jokic threat to where like you can put him in the pick and roll and he's either gonna roll and yam on you, or the center's gonna help and come down and he's gonna make the craziest pass you've ever seen behind his head, through his legs, and between another defender. And it's like, how did you even see that? He's absolutely ridiculous. And if you try to get him off the roll and get him onto the pop, he'll drain a 3 in your face. His shooting has a little bit more to develop there, but his mid-range has been phenomenal. His three-pointer is definitely getting there. And once he becomes a legit sharpshooter, which he has potential to, it's scary hours. It is going to be very, very scary in Houston. I mean, I really like this Rockets team. I didn't expect them to be as good as they are right now, but they're really putting it together. Ime's been doing his thing, installing his culture. He really has gotten them to all buy into the defensive side, especially Alp, who, I mean, obviously he's not a great defender. He's not perfect by any means, but he's looked a lot better than last year. So much so to where, I mean, last year you had Steven Silas benching him in fourth quarters because he was so bad on defense sometimes. To where this year, I mean, he is serviceable. He can do it pretty much for 48 minutes. I mean, he's not going to be an all-world defender or anything like that, but he will hustle. He will go out there and he will try his best to get a steal, get a block, lock down the best post player. I mean, he's not going to be successful 100% of the time, but the more you put them in those situations, the better he will get, and the more it will pay off in the long run. So, Alp for All-Star. If he doesn't make it, I will genuinely be shocked. I mean, he has to be. He's averaging just about 20, 11, and 5 right now. It's ridiculous. He absolutely deserves it. I love Alp. Last shout out goes to Raekwon Battle of West Virginia. They took down number 3 overall Kansas this weekend, and boy did he go crazy. Led the team in points with 23, led the team in rebounds with 9, 2 assists, and a block, I believe. And without his effort, I mean, West Virginia would have lost this game pretty handedly. He kept them in it the whole way through. This Kansas team is a good team, not nearly as good as last year. I'm interested to see the way this shakes up. I actually believe the rankings just got updated right as I was making my notes. So I'll have to check that, but it's gonna be interesting to see how the things shake up in the rankings. I know Kansas will definitely not stay. Um, Auburn will definitely jump up. I'm excited to see that. They just beat number 22 overall Ole Miss. I like their team a lot. Arizona is going to jump up probably. That team's been playing well. Caleb Love's been hooping like he always is. Um, I really, really, really like both of those teams, and I believe they're probably going to jump into like the 8 or 9 spots because it was a crazy weekend in college basketball. We had number 3 Kansas lose, number 9 Baylor lose, number 7 Duke lose, and number 10 Memphis lost again. So Memphis is going to take a huge hit in the rankings. They still have a good squad, like I said on Friday. I'm not super worried about them, but back-to-back losses. This last one to Tulane yesterday. Interesting, very interesting predicament. They're gonna fall, obviously. I'll have to get an update on those rankings here in a minute, but college basketball is just absolutely nuts, man. We're already getting close to March. I can't wait. It's gonna be an absolute blast. I really do think it's gonna be UConn. I like this UConn team. Um, I still don't trust Purdue whatsoever. Go Huskies. All right, let's get into these football games. And like I said, we were absolutely blessed on Saturday and Sunday. We got some amazing games. I won't go too much into Packers Niners since I already talked about them with the George Kittle stuff. Now, Texans Ravens. That one had me sweating in the first half. The Texans defense looked really, really good. They were getting a lot of pressure on Lamar. They're really stressing me out. It kind of was looking like the 2019 Greg Roman days where we just were not making any adjustments on offense. Lamar, there's no checking the hot routes, nothing like that. Nothing to get the ball out quickly. A lot of shots downfield, a lot of routes downfield when we should have been going underneath a lot. They were sitting pressure, and it was getting to us. And I was stressed. It was looking like my prediction I was going to come down to a game-winning field goal was going to be right. But we came out in the second half, and boy, did we adjust. Todd Monken, all of the praise in the world. He came out and made sure that we absolutely cut them up. Now, I mean, Lamar was absolutely balling this whole game. I mean, if this doesn't at least somewhat silence the haters, I don't know what will, man. I mean, this game against the Chiefs, he is going to go all out. He is locked in. He's had some absolutely beautiful balls, great reads. I mean, he is still the fastest guy on the field most of the time, no matter what. And he's not even running full speed half the time. He said it himself. He's like going to save it. And I think he definitely broke it out on that one first down run that he got like 20 yards on the 4th and 1. And that he had the little stop-start cut like he did back in his high school days, that one Vine that went viral, that move. He hit that, and oh my goodness, it was ridiculous. I mean, he can just literally do it all, and I will refuse to hear anyone who says he's not an elite passer, because he is. The throws he was making on Saturday, you just don't see that from your normal average or below average quarterbacks. They're not making these types of throws. They're not seeing these types of reads. I mean, his I think that's a very underrated part of his game this year is his vision has been phenomenal. He's been seeing the field the best he ever has, and he's cutting up defenses because of it. Putting up 34 on a very good and very fast Texans defense is nothing to sneeze at. And this Chiefs game is going to be an all-out war. They're going to need to put up another at least 24, at least, to keep up with the Chiefs. Because regardless of what this Chiefs team looks like, they will score. And you have to make sure you can keep up with them. Scoring 20 will not do the trick. We'll go more into my predictions on Friday. I'm very excited for this game. Now, Lions Bucks. The thing I want to talk about with Lions Bucks is that I think that Jared Goff has cemented himself as at least a top 8 quarterback, and we are not talking about it enough. I mean, his composure during that whole game, he never folded once. He was absolutely nails the entire time, and that's what the Lions have needed. I mean, obviously they had Stafford for years, and he's great in clutch time, and he's a phenomenal quarterback, and it's not to say that he wasn't great for them. But this team is just different. Jared Goff right now is just different. He is locked all of the way in, and they're going to give the Niners some fits. They're going to give the Niners some fits. I mean, they just looked like a really complete team. Um, the defense looked about as good as it's looked all season. I know they've had some of their struggles, but when they're playing their best football, when you got guys like Brian Branch, Anzalone, you got Aiden Hutchinson all flying to the football. I mean, you really, that's a good unit, and you got to have at least a little faith in them. You have to, because they could very easily. I mean, it's no question that they can score. It is absolutely no question. They got weapons top to bottom, and like I said, Jared Goff, he really is. I mean, just his passing has been so underrated. I think just this whole season, and especially over the last 4 or 5 games, probably. I mean, he has easily been a top six quarterback in the league over these past 5 games. He has been ridiculous, and that's what I'm here to talk about. Is Jared Goff deserves more respect, and I'll admit it. I used to be not a hater. I wasn't a Jared Goff hater, but I wasn't a full time believer for the longest time. Took about up until last year or this year before I was like, okay, okay, I see it. So if you aren't on the train already, open your eyes and get on, or get run over, baby, because Joff is coming. I should say Joff Goff. Um, and then Chiefs Bills. Chiefs Bills, man. I mean, that was exactly what I expected from that game. Just two of the best in the league going head to head. What more can you want? It was just ridiculous. What I do want to say is I am a fan of the touchback fumble out of the end zone rule. I 100% agree with it. There should be punishments for if the offense does that. And I think it makes perfect sense. So anyone who complains about it, you're wrong. Um, yeah, it was just a crazy game. I mean, there's not much to say other than, man, McCole Hardman is not going to be a football player for much longer if he keeps doing stuff like this. It really is impressive that the Chiefs are winning with the players they have. MVS had a much better game than I expected him to. Kelsey is starting to finally get back to form again. He's looking like himself. They're gonna. It's like I said, this Chiefs Ravens game might be like the best football game of all time that isn't a Super Bowl. I mean, it's gonna be an absolute war. Um, the Chiefs defense is still top tier. Chris Jones scares anybody he lines up against. Nick Bolton is just an absolute dog. I don't know what more you can really say about this Chiefs team. They're they're great. They really are. The Bills are in such a weird place right now. Like I said, they will be back. I mean, they're not gonna fall off or anything. It's Josh Allen, it's the Bills, but they're super over the cap. I want to say 46 million. I saw today, $46 million over the cap, and it's just gonna keep getting higher because Vaughn's on a 5-year deal. They have some decisions to make, and I don't really know where they go from here. They need to invest in the secondary. Um, Too many injuries out there to think that you can go into next season with this same core and expect it to work out. Um, I don't know. I like James Cook. I think he's a great option at running back. I like the receiving core. Is Stephon Diggs washed? Is that what's going on? Are we starting to see a decline from the Stephon? I sure hope not. I don't think so, but he just has not looked like himself recently. And I mean, for the last, what, 3 years, he's been alluding to the fact that maybe he doesn't want to be in Buffalo anymore because they keep choking their way out of the playoffs. They're in an interesting predicament. And like I said, they'll be back. They're not going to fall off. They're going to be in the playoffs again next year. But they got some choices to make, man. They really do. And I'm interested to see what happens with this team. They're not going to blow it up completely, but I think there will be a decent amount of new faces in that locker room next year. So the next thing I want to do here is, since NBA All-Star voting officially closed on Sunday, I want to try to predict what the game is going to look like. Who's going to be starting? Might do the bench too. We'll see. So first and foremost, we will start with the West. And in the West, I really don't think it can be anyone else but Luka and Shea in the backcourt. Like I said last week, Shea low-key should probably be front runner for MVP. He is having an absolutely phenomenal season, his best all-around year. And just the way this Thunder team has been playing, I don't see how it can't be him. I know Steph is leading him in votes right now, but I think the players will probably, their percentage of votes probably boost him to start. So that's my guess, is that it'll be Shea instead of Steph. And Luka, not much to say about him that you can really say at this point. He is the best player I've ever seen in my life. I'm exaggerating, but I mean, the way that he moves compared to like Shea, like his backcourt mate in this instance, is just so funny that they're completely like two different play styles and yet still so effective at what they do. I mean, Luka's going to do a slow little step back, drill one in your face, lull you to sleep, and Shea is the most herky-jerky, quickest player I've ever seen. It's so funny if you watch a Thunder game and then you watch a Mavericks game, and they're just both the most dominant players on the floor doing two completely different things. They both absolutely deserve it. I don't think it'll be anyone else but those two. Front court, definitely Braun. It's Braun every year. It's year 21. He is still doing this. It's year 21 and he's going to be a captain again. I mean, he's the best player of all time. He's the best player of all time. Is it really a debate at this point? I mean, Michael Jordan is the GOAT, but the best player of all time, I mean, it's Braun. It really is. How is he still doing this? He's 40. He's practically 40. It blows my mind. It makes no sense. He's been putting up the same 27, 7, and 7 since he was 18 years old. Is he superhuman? He has to be. I'm baffled by this. I truly, truly, truly am. Obviously, Jokic will be there too. Jokic is just, he's not on another, I mean, he's on another level to everyone else just because, he's going to probably finish with another triple-double this year. He's not having as good of a year as last year or his MVP years, but, I mean, in the same way that Luka does his domination by playing slow and doing his methodical stuff, so does he, and it is just beautiful to watch. He's probably my favorite player to watch in the league, just off of pure aesthetics. I mean, I think he might be the best passer in the league. I know that's kind of crazy to say, and just in terms of like how freaking cool they look. I mean, there's at least 5 times a game when I'm watching Jokic that I just kind of like laugh out of like shock and awe because I'm like, how did you just do that? How do you even? It's like he's got eyes in the back of his head. We'll never see another player like this ever again. Obviously, LP is, Jokic light, but they're still different in their own ways. We will never see anyone like him again. I mean, we just have to appreciate greatness while it's here. And if you're hating, if there's still people who don't see it, who are not fans of the big Serbian fat man, I don't know what to tell you, dude. I mean, he's just ridiculous. And my last one, it's a hard pick. I mean, they're both having great seasons, but it's between Kawhi and AD. I went with Kawhi just because I think he's having a slightly better season, just offensively. And I mean, obviously, AD's been out of this world defensively this year, and if he can stay healthy enough to meet the 65 game mark, I think he probably needs to play 70 to 75, but I think he could very, very easily win Defensive Player of the Year this year. It's honestly shocking that he hasn't before. I mean, he's perennial, all-world, just, I mean, if you're ranking the top 5 defenders in the league, you're probably throwing AD in there most of the time. I mean, if this is not the year for him to win it, I don't know if he ever will. Not to say that takes away from any of his defensive abilities whatsoever, but I really see, I mean, there doesn't seem to be a clear front runner yet this year. I really think it could be him. I would love to see it. I would have loved to have seen him win an MVP like we all thought he would back in the day, but seems those days are long gone. Anyways, I think Kawhi deserves it over him just because, I mean, This Clippers team, man, they kind of scare me. I did not expect to be saying that. They kind of scare me. I mean, they are figuring it out. Ever since Russ went to the bench, this unit, I mean, it just shout out Terrence Mann. Terrence Mann has been so great, and I just think he's been an underrated part of that turnaround. His defense has been good, and he's been getting there offensively. I mean, he's been such a good piece for them, and he's really been the connector that they've needed for that offensive starting lineup. I mean, they really. I don't want to say, because I don't know if I can fully doubt Denver yet. And I also really like Minnesota. I think their defenses can carry them very far. But, I mean, they could very easily be the ones coming out of the West this year. Very easily. They've been close a lot. Paul George almost did it by himself without Kawhi. And this was before they had Russ and Harden. So now that they're really figuring it out, and they have one of the best coaches in the league, shout out Ty Lue. He will always be one of the best at adjustments and rotations, and I love everything he does when it comes to his basketball mind. His basketball IQ is out of this world. He might be my favorite coach in the league, second favorite. I love you, Thibs, to death, always and forever. I mean, he truly is just. I don't think he gets enough respect either. Like I said, that starting lineup change really turned around the whole season for them. And they're just playing good basketball. And Kawhi is at the front of that. He's looking like his old self, like he's finally shaken off the rust, knocked off the rust, stopped acting like he's a role player ever since Harden got there. And he's looked damn good. I think it'll be him. I think it deserves to be him. He's been having a phenomenal year. Shout out LaClaw. East starters. So, my backcourt, Tyrese Halliburton, hands down, no debate. 24 and 11. I mean, yeah, there's nothing else to say. He's an all-star. He should have been no matter what. I mean, he's ridiculous. Leading the best offense in the entire history of the NBA right now. It is interesting. I mean, we'll get to this. They are 0-2 to start the Pascal Siakam era with a 117-110 loss to the Trailblazers in their first game and a 116-110 loss to the Suns the other night. Interesting stuff going on in Indiana. Like I said, they still can't defend a thing. Interesting to see what they do at the deadline. Anyways, Tyrese deserves it. If he's not starting, just throw the whole game away. Throw the whole game away. My second guard, I mean, there's so many guys you can pick here. I mean, Dame's finally picking it up. He's having a great season. It's Dame. Tyrese Maxey, I love Tyrese. I don't think he's going to actually make it this year, unfortunately. I just think there's too many good guards and forwards in the East. He didn't make my bench at all, which, again, it's not a knock on him. He's having a phenomenal season, and that doesn't mean anything. He could also very easily have been one of my starters because, again, having a great year. But compared to the rest of these guys, I ended up going with Jalen Brunson because I truly do think he's been the second best guard in the East this year. If you look at the numbers, I mean, he's having a year close to on par with what Steph Curry's unanimous MVP year looked like, which is ridiculous and not being talked about enough. He's averaging 38 and 8.5 over his last 3 games. If he's not a starter, I don't know who is. I really don't. I mean, it's going to be close. Trey has a great case, but his team is playing not great, and he's also not always the most efficient, and he's a playmaker, but he's not a traditional point guard, so I think, no, we're gonna walk that back. Trey has a case. Trey has a case, but I just think that Jalen has been the better point guard in the East so far this year. So I'm going with him. I think Trey still makes it. I think he'll be the first guard off the bench, but I still have JB over him. In the front court, I mean, I feel like it's pretty easily Giannis and Embiid for sure. And then your third guy, you can go a couple different ways. I mean, I don't think Julius Randle will make it. I love him, but I don't think he's gonna make it at all. Paolo, Paolo, I don't think will be a starter, but boy, would I love to see it. I think that would be awesome. I have a lot of love for Paolo. He is having a great year. I think the Magic are still fifth in the East right now. They might have fallen down to sixth. I think they're 23 and 20 now, but no, Paolo I could see it. It won't happen, but I could very easily see it. Who did I have for my third? Sorry, this is terrible podcasting. Yes, Tatum, of course. Who? That's why he's been having a bit of a down year by his standards, but I mean, it's still Jason Tatum. He's still averaging 27, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists. He's leading the best team in the East, who I'm kind of having to have some doubts about recently. They have not looked as terrifying as, and by not looked as terrifying, I specifically mean in crunch time, because they don't get to the basket at all. They really only shoot threes. Missoula Ball is shoot the hell out of the three, and at some point, that's not gonna win you a playoff series. So, I mean, if you saw the other night against Denver, that's the reason they lost. They shot chucking, not looking for actual shots, ISOing. I mean, they have 5 guys out there at any given moment who can give them a bucket. And they maybe scored 4 points in the last 2 minutes of the game. I mean, I think they'll work it out because they're a great team. Missoula's a good coach, but I'm interested to see if they try to keep up this strategy. And obviously, threes are more valuable than twos, and you saw how the Rockets were playing that back in the 2015, 2016, 2017, all that. But we also saw how low that depth can be if you hit the lowest of the lows and miss 28 straight threes in a playoff game, in an elimination game. And I think that could maybe be the Celtics if they don't develop some kind of a half-court offense in crunch time. Because everything else, anything outside of like the last 5 minutes of the game, Celtics are the best team in the league, by far. And then you get into those last 5 minutes, and you're like, kind of don't know if I trust them. I'm interested. I still think they're my title favorites out of the East, but I'm not as high on them as I originally was. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what goes on in Boston. So yeah, those are my all-star starters. I'm very excited for the game. If Jalen Brunson doesn't make it, I am going to the commissioner's office and going to have a very stern talking to with Adam Silver. And then I will riot. I'm kidding, Adam. Please don't come for me. That's a joke. But seriously, though, Jalen Brunson is an all-star and All-NBA and a superstar. Don't forget it. All right, now let's get into our matchup previews. And for those of you who don't know, which you probably don't, because even I forgot when I was going to look up the stuff for my matchup previews, it's NBA Rivalry Week. And that means that we are going to get a full slate of games for teams that don't actually hate each other, because rivalries don't mean anything in the NBA. But Adam Silver wants to try to make money, so shout out Adam Silver. I respect it. Try to chase the bag. It's not working with this. This is the one thing you've tried in the last couple years that has not worked so far, and I don't think it will work. And I'll get into that after I do the matchup previews. We're going to have a whole little spiel about NBA rivalries and Rivalry Week. But, yeah, it's Rivalry Week, so we'll start with that. The first one, the most exciting one, I think, is going to be Suns-Mavs. Because, in case you forgot, Devin Booker and Luka Doncic hate each other on the court so much. And I love it. It is the only thing that is restoring this rivalry feeling right now. And if every team in Rivalry Week hated each other the way that the Suns and the Mavs do right now, I would be tuned in to every single game no matter what, because it would be beautiful basketball. I am all for rivalries. I think rivalries are the best part of sports, and Suns Mavs is restoring the feeling. these playoff matchups, these regular season matchups, so much yapping, so much back and forth. I mean, Luca and D Book are just like the ultimate shit talkers of the league. So that just makes it like 30 times more entertaining because they're just going to be jawing the whole time. It's going to be a phenomenal matchup. I think the Mavericks will win this one. They've been playing some good basketball recently. Shout out to Dante Exum, dude. He's hurt right now. He's supposed to hopefully be back by Wednesday's game. We'll see if he is back, but he's been playing great basketball after being completely out of the league. I mean, just what a phenomenal story. But no, I mean, he's a great perimeter defender, shoot the heck out of the ball. He's been great for them. Such a really the piece that they needed in that lineup right now. Derek Lively's been great. They're finally starting to show more trust in him. Kyrie is Kyrie. It's Kyrie, man. I mean, he's just so fun to watch no matter what. I will never not be blown away by the way he just has a ball on a string all of the time. But I think Mavs will pull it out. It's going to be an intense game. It's going to be a lot of yapping. I'm excited to see it. I love watching the matchup every time, and I wish that every rivalry game this week had the same intensity that this one does. Fortunately, it doesn't, but oh well. And the other one that I have highlighted for this week is Sixers Pacers. Like I said, Pacers are 0-2 right now in the Pascal Siakam era, and I think this game against the Sixers can be a very good baseline to really see outline what their issues are and figure out what they need to adjust, what needs to change, who they need to go for at the trade deadline. It's going to be interesting. I think they'll keep up with them. I actually see the Pacers winning this game. I think they just have so much scoring options, and the whole issue with the Sixers right now is that I don't know who I trust outside of Maxey and Embiid to create their own shot. I mean, Tobias Harris is good, don't get me wrong, but he's not much of a shot creator. He's like half a one, if anything. And the rest of that team is just a bunch of dudes. I mean, D'Anthony Mountain's good, don't get me wrong. I like D'Anthony. Paul Reed, shout out B-Ball Paul, but I mean, there's just not enough scoring. And that's where I think you maybe go after a guy like Jeremy Grant if you're the Sixers. I would really like that for them. You probably, I don't know what that trade looks like. They have the pieces to do it. They definitely do. I'm just not sure. Maybe Tobias, but you want to try to keep him. And that is a lot of money to be taking on. But I still think it would make the most sense. Because, I mean, Jeremy Grant, he's worth that contract, by the way. Like, let's not get it twisted. He is playing great basketball right now. He always has been. And I think even I was shocked when they announced the number. But, I mean, it's clear that, I mean, he's a hooper, man. He gives his all on defense. He can score at every level. I mean, he will take you to the post and work you. He can do it all, man. I like Jeremy Grant. I think it'd be a perfect fit for that team. A very perfect third option for that team. He's being wasted away in Portland right now, and I would hate to see this deadline go by without him getting traded. I mean, originally I thought he wasn't going to get traded at all because of the contract, but like I said, with how he's been playing, I mean, I don't think there are many contenders that would pass up on him despite the contract. I really think that's how well he's been playing. And for a team like the Sixers, who needs a guy like that, they'd be more than willing to pay that price. So I think it's going to be a very interesting fit for them. Anyways, Sixers, Pacers, it's going to be a lot of scoring. A lot of scoring. I mean, I think this is going to be a game that maybe goes to overtime, ends in like the 130s. It's going to be a great matchup. I mean, Joel has just been on a tear like he always is. I don't know what else to say about him at this point, dude. I mean, the fact that he somehow got better after winning MVP doesn't make any sense whatsoever. He's still leading the league in scoring. He's still top 3 in rebounds. He is second in assists for a center, averaging the most of his career with 6. You're averaging 33 points and also 6 assists. This guy is a madman. I mean, I was seeing some debates the other day, if he's one of gonna finish as one of the best scorers of all time, and I mean, at his size, with the fact that he can literally score at every level, and he's a great 3-point shooter, and he can play make to no end. I mean, he could finish very high up there. He's gonna be in those talks for sure. I mean, we're watching a very, very special player, and I think people have realized it, but to I don't think people are realizing how impressive it is that he's somehow having a better season than his MVP year last year. So yeah, I'm excited for that game. I think it's gonna be good. I think the Pacers will actually pull this out. I will think they get their first win of the Pascal Siakam era, but I also think it will show the rest of the flaws that they have, which is brings me to another point. They have like 5 or 6 power forwards on the roster right now because of the Siakam trade. That's the logjam they need to clear up if they want to make this trade. I mean, they have Obi Toppin, Jalen Smith, Obi Toppin, Jarris Walker, all coming off the bench right now, and they still have Oscar Tshiebwe sitting in the reserves. They got James Johnson, who I mean, he's a power forward. He's really more there just to be an enforcer, not play any minutes, and just be a vibes guy and beat someone up if another fight breaks out and Giannis tries to shove Tyrese again. Um, and they have Pascal starting, so they technically have 6 power forwards on the roster right now, and they got to figure out something to do. I think if anyone's the odd man out, it's probably Jalen Smith, not because he's the worst of the group, but because he deserves a better opportunity than this. I think they're finally realizing that Obi is not the solution that they would hoped it would be, and I love Obi Toppin. He is such a favorite on the Knicks. He was just never going to get there defensively. He's just too small. He's just not fast enough. I mean, he's got the length for it. He's got the bounce for it. But outside of that, I mean, he's just not what you want as a 4 defensively, especially rebounding too. I mean, which is kind of crazy because you would think at 6'9" with a 41-inch vertical that he would at least be averaging like 8 to 9 boards. I mean, it's not like he's the smallest guy on the floor. You've got Russ who has over 8,000 rebounds in his career, and he's 6'3". So it doesn't make any sense that he's as bad of a rebounder that he is, honestly. And it makes me kind of sad that he's gonna get forced in this kind of 6-man role, which I guess is better than what he was doing on the Knicks. But still, I mean, it sucks to see, but it makes sense. I never thought he was going to be the solution they needed. I was sad about the trade, but it is what it is. Pascal is a much better addition for them, so I think Jalen Smith is probably the odd man out in this situation. It's obviously not going to be Jarris Walker because they're super high on him. I'm super high on Jarris Walker. I think because Pascal's turning 30 in April, I believe. Yeah, April. So he'll be great for a while. He's still got time, but by the time Pascal starts slowing down, should be around the same time that it's time to put Jarris into the spotlight. So I think it's going to be a very fun transition. I think Jarris has a lot to learn from Pascal offensively. I mean, he's already just a phenomenal defender in his own right out of the gate, which I mean is so rare to see from a guy his size at his position this early. I mean, he's got it. He's just got the instincts, man. It's impressive to see. I like him a lot. And then, he can do it offensively, but you get him into the Pascal Siakam school of running in transition and spin layups. It's going to open up a lot for him. And I'm very excited to see if he really takes him under his wing, like I hope he does. And that transition should be seamless whenever it comes. So those are my 2 NBA games to focus on this week and rivalry week. And then my last game is for college basketball, and it's going to be Texas versus now number 11 ranked Oklahoma. Got the Red River rivalry this week. So the reason I highlighted this one is because Texas just knocked off number 9 Baylor, and I like this Texas team. Dylan Mitchell is, I think, a very underrated player in college basketball right now. His defensive instincts are phenomenal. He's so great on that side of the ball. And when he's on offensively, plus you have Tyrese Hunter, who is just a hooper. When those two are doing their thing, it's hard to slow this Texas team down. And that's exactly what you saw the other night when they beat Baylor. And I would like to see if they can do it again against Oklahoma and really shake some things up. They're still outside of the top 25 right now. I think they got 41 votes. Um, they definitely deserve the consideration. And if they beat Oklahoma, I'd be very shocked if they are not in the top 25. So that's my last matchup preview. And let's talk about rivalry week. So my whole issue with rivalry week is that it's not the NFL. You know, you're playing 82 games in a year. When you're playing 17 and you're playing a team twice a year, and sometimes within like 2 games of each other, and both of those games have playoff implications or division standing implications, there's just so much more fire that's underneath it when you're seeing them more often than 4 times a year spaced out over 82 games, you know? It's just hard to build that hatred. And it sucks because there's a lot of rivalries that should happen, that should be there. I mean, you had Knicks Nets for a while but I mean, that's not even a rivalry. They were kicking our butts whenever Katie and Kyrie and James were all there. It was never really a rivalry, and now they suck, so we're whooping them. So there was never a real animosity between the teams. It was always just the fan bases clashing because the Nets thought they were the kings of New York now, and Knicks fans didn't want to hear it. And by the way, the Knicks always ran the city, even during that time. I don't care what anybody says. It was always a Knicks city, no matter what. Um, but yeah, it's things like that where there should be these rivalries, there should be this fire. There's just not because the season's too long. There's just too many storylines, and also you just have too much player movement. That's the other thing. I mean, in the NFL, you're more than likely at least going to play your first 5, 6 years with a team before maybe leaving. And even then, you're probably signing your contract extension. In the NBA, there's so much player movement that, I mean, you have a beef with one guy on a team and their team, and then by free agency, they're out east, and you don't play them again until February. And so I think that's really killed it. And like I said, Suns Mavs is restoring the feeling. And I think it's when you have situations like that, those playoff battles, that's when you really start to build it. I think like Knicks Cavs has a chance to really get there in the next couple of years because they're clearly going to be two contenders in the East for the next however long. I mean, the Cavs window, I don't think is going to be open for. Okay, I can't say that. I'm saying this window with Donovan Mitchell because I don't see Donnie staying much longer than another 3 seasons, maybe. I I think the writing's on the wall that he doesn't want to be in Cleveland longer than he has to be. I think he's interested to see what he could do on a different team in a situation where he's not I want to say not in the small backcourt, but then again I want to see him play with Jalen Brunson. So I don't want to see it happen right now. I'm not of the Stephen A. Smith camp where we need to have Donovan Mitchell or we will not win a championship or we will not go far in the East. I think that's a ridiculous take. I don't think Donovan Mitchell is the make or break point for this Knicks team. I think there's a lot of other factors that go into it. And I think we're also the closest we've ever been since we were in the actual finals back in 98. So, excuse me, 99. I mean, this is a good team. This is a very good Knicks team. But Donovan Mitchell is also not the Lord and Savior that Stephen A. Smith thinks he is. Sorry, side tangent. Stephen A. Smith is a fake Knicks fan. Anyways, it's just things like that where, like, hopefully those playoff battles can really intensify things for the regular season. Because that's how we got here with Suns and Mavs, is they kept meeting in the playoffs and they kept having these trash talking battles. I mean, especially when you have a guy like Luka. I think that's the other thing is I feel like you don't see as many guys who are intense trash talkers as in the 2000s. And I mean, There's only a few people who came from the KG school of talking shit, I feel like, at this point. Luka's a very clear disciple, and I love it. KD, KD might be the best trash talker in the league, and that might have to be a whole nother debate we have one day. Just because I love trash talking, I think it's one of the best parts of sports. The one thing I come to when it comes to KD is whenever he called Evan Fournier Le Petit. That was probably one of the coldest things I've ever seen KD do. Um, so yeah, it's just things like that. I think when you have guys who really hate each other on the court because of things like that, because of playoff battles, because of talking shit, it just really ignites a different fire, and we just don't get that anymore. You can see a lot. I mean, these guys are all best friends in the league. They're all best friends on and off the court. And yeah, it's not a bad thing. Player empowerment. I'm not saying that these guys should hate each other, especially off the court. Like, that's not at all what I'm getting at. But on the court, for 48 minutes, I want these guys going at each other's necks, man. Because I love that stuff. I love it. And I think eventually, if we get some parity like that to where we're having teams match up a lot in different situations, because I think that was also part of it. It's hard to have rivalries when the Warriors were a dynasty. If you know what I'm saying, the only real rivalry was Warriors Cavs because we were all expecting it to be the finals, and no other basketball really mattered. So I think the increased parity and so many different teams getting a chance to win a championship will help it. So I hope it can get better, but I just don't know if it will. It's just because it's like I said, it's such a long season. There's so much player movement. It's really hard to actually create a good, solid rivalry in the NBA at this point, and I hate it. It sucks. Um, all right, and that will officially wrap up episode 2 of Boundin and Astoundin. I want to thank you guys all so much for listening, for watching. Please leave a like, please subscribe. It helps the channel a ton. Like I said, I just want to keep building this to make it the best that it can be for you guys and build this community. That's my whole goal here. I just want to talk sports with you guys, really get my opinions out there and hear your opinions. So leave a like, leave a comment, all that stuff. It helps the channel. Give me any feedback. I'd love to hear it. And as you know, we always stay active on the glass around here, y'all. Have a good week.